Welcome back for the Brand Ambassador series, and we're staying in the United States today. It's a very well-known brand, Maker's Mark, and Regan is with us.
Hello everyone, welcome to Brandy Library with Maker's Mark.
Nice
Thank you for having me.
Well, everybody knows Maker's Mark, of course, but it's time that we talk a bit more about it, because now there's a Maker's 46.
There is the new Maker's 46.
And anyway, everybody's drinking a lot of Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark maintains a really cult status. It's always been really a crowd favorite, and we've really pushed the industry in a new direction with the 46 as well, so we'll talk about both of them today.
Very good. First off, why is Maker's Mark so popular? Why can we find it just about everywhere?
Well, Maker's Mark is so popular mostly because of it. It has a wonderful flavor. It has a great, sweet, forward palate flavor, which makes it even really accessible to people that aren't whiskey drinkers. And so it kind of opens up a brand new category for a lot of people with that delicious caramel and vanilla flavor. Although you see Maker's Mark everywhere, it's a very popular cult favorite. It is completely handmade from start to finish, and that maintains a hand craftsmanship in Loretto, Kentucky to this day that hasn't changed at all since its inception.
All right, well, then tell us a bit about this manufacturer of it.
So we are distilled at the Maker's Mark Distillery. The original name was Star Hill Farms. And Maker's Mark has been distilling in the Samuels family for several generations. Bill Samuels Jr., the son of Bill Samuels Sr., who created Maker's Mark brand, actually just retired. And so it maintains really a real family feel of the distillery to this day. And everything from the little star here on the label, which stands for Star Hill Farms and Samuels family, to the red wax, which is still hand dipped, each bottle by hand to this day. And it's a really magical place to go. I encourage everyone who goes to the Urban Bourbon Trail to make Maker's Mark the first one on their stop.
It's a beautiful sight, that's for sure. But primarily, it's a Kentucky straight bourbon.
It is a Kentucky straight bourbon.
So how is it different from the others?
So in order to be a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, you have to be made in Kentucky. Bourbons can actually be made anywhere in America, but I maintain that the best ones come from Kentucky, but I might be a little biased. It has to be put in a brand new barrel and made with majority grain corn, and then beyond that you go into your really distillation and proofing levels, where the art of the master distiller is really part of that process. What makes Maker's Mark so special is that it is a wheat bourbon. And so rather than its secondary grain being rye, the secondary grain is wheat.
All right.
And we use red winter wheat, and so that's what gives it that really supple, caramelly, sweet flavor. That
When
sets
everybody
it apart.
else is doing, or almost everybody else is using rye as the flavor grain, so when was that choice made, or why altogether?
Well, Bill Samuels Sr., who actually created Maker's Mark with his wife in their kitchen, they one day set the family recipe on fire. They burned the family recipe and they decided to start from scratch. And this was in the 50s, and so we'd already gone through Prohibition. There were some bourbons on the market that weren't very delicious, and he said, I'm going to make a delicious, soft, sweet bourbon that will be smooth on the palate and that everyone will like. And so when he burned the family recipe and set it on fire, he wrote a new recipe, and they actually made bread in their kitchen together. And then one day they said, Eureka, this rye bread is spicy, this wheat bread is more sweet like a pastry, let's try this. So then they distilled it with the wheat.
Very good. Well, I think we should probably taste it.
I think we should probably taste it, yes. Let's get started on that right away. So I'm going to pour you a little Maker's Mark.
I love the sound of it already.
I know, it sounds so good. And Maker's Mark is 90 proof. Another thing that makes it so special is that it is actually aged to taste. And what that means is that there's a range of age. Each barrel lives on the very top of the rack house for about 3 years, at least 3 summers. Then it's hand rotated all the way down to full maturation. That ranges anywhere between 5 years, 9 months, and 7 years typically. And then the master distiller will marry it all together. So every bottle will have this beautiful amber golden hue.
It is good looking.
Cheers. Let's have a sip together. And I like to always do a soft exhale after I sip and really see where I feel it.
There's no punch
There's no punch.
with Maker's Mark.
You get what you feel, you'll feel that tingling on the tip of your tongue. That's where you have sweet taste buds. And so this is why people that even might be hesitant to get into the bourbon or whiskey category are going to love Maker's Mark. And with that sweetness, you can make a variety of very delicious cocktails that enhance all those Maker's Mark flavors.
And, well, we have people ordering Maker's Mark just neat. We have people ordering Maker's Mark and ask for ice in the glass. And we have a lot of people asking for a Maker's Mark based cocktail. It's one of those very few brands that are so versatile. You can just do almost whatever you want to do.
You can do whatever you want. And it is that exact versatility which makes it a standard for really any bourbon drinker.
When did it start that you could find Maker's Mark in Europe, Maker's Mark in Asia, Maker's Mark just about everywhere?
Well, the real storm started after a Wall Street Journal article in 1980. And they just went down and they interviewed Bill Samuels Jr. at the distillery. And then right after that, it came to New York, and it's been spreading ever since. And now you find it really in almost every corner of Europe. I actually launched the brand in Italy.
All right.
Because I am an Italian speaker, so I got to go over there and teach the Italians how to make a proper Manhattan.
Ah, beautiful. Well, they're pretty good at cocktails.
They are very good at cocktails.
At enjoying cocktails. So we can trust them.
We made many Maker's Mark aperitivi.
Well, certainly this is quite enjoyable. Some people say that Maker's Mark's too easy. Some people say that you should be looking for more character in Maker's Mark. What do you say to that?
I say that Maker's Mark has made bourbon a really accessible category. Maker's Mark remains a gold standard for any bourbon drinker. I think that the popularity of Maker's Mark speaks to the brand's quality. However, it does not convey a message of mass production or of not being complex. As a flavor profile, we wanted sweet and forward finish and caramel and the softer flavors to appeal to everyone. And this kind of revolutionized the whole bourbon category to make them all taste really well. And this is something that as we develop our bourbon taste, that then you can go into the overproofs. You can go into things with more spice. You can experiment with which grains you like. Perhaps you like a rye as a flavor grain. But as a standard, Maker's Mark I maintain.
Right, so as a benchmark and an everyday
and an everyday bourbon.
Okay, beautiful. But then this leads me to the next question. Why something different? We were very surprised.
Everyone was a little
46.
surprised. Yeah. So the 46 was actually developed as a call to all of our Maker's Mark ambassadors. Everyone loves Maker's Mark. But as bourbon grew and grew in popularity and everyone wanted to try new things, the ambassadors said, you make Maker's Mark, which is the standard and the best bourbon ever, give us another option. And so after much tinkering and much debate, the master distiller, then Kevin Smith and Bill Samuels Jr. Started working with our cooper. And they decided, heck, we're just going to mess around with it a little bit. But they did not want to change the base recipe of Maker's Mark, which is that beautiful wheat flavor, which we can't get enough of. And they did not want to simply age it longer or proof it higher. They wanted to do something to kind of revolutionize the industry, and they were willing to scrap the plans if it didn't taste, as Bill Samuels Jr. said, absolutely yummy. So that's when 46 was born. So working with the cooper, there were several ones that did not work out. And one day they came upon this special stave, and I actually brought one.